Tina, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited too. It's finally here.
Yes, it's finally here. We finally made it. We connected. And I want to give a little backstory on how me and you connected for my audience. So, shout out to Amber Lay, which is a mutual friend of ours. She is incredible. She was on my podcast in season 1. And a couple months ago, she reached out to me and she was like, yo, are you still looking for guests for your show? Because I have someone incredible that I need you to connect with. And she mentioned your name. And I took a listen to your music that we're going to talk about and looked at you and just your presence on social media. And I was like, ooh, I want to know more about her. She's from New York. She's gorgeous. She is out here killing it with her music. So me and you connected, and lo and behold, we're here to have this amazing conversation to learn more about you. And I'm just so honored, first and foremost, for Amber of even thinking of me to reach out to me and vouch for you to be like, yo, you got to know more about Tina. She's amazing. She has an incredible story. So shout out to her and shout out to you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I want to shout out Amber too. Any friend of Amber is a friend of mine. And I want to thank you for just taking the time to sit with me and taking the time to listen to my music.
Yes, absolutely. We're definitely going to dive deep into that. But first, I always start off with you introducing yourself to my audience for people who are meeting you for the first time. So let everyone know, who is Tina Yao?
Tina Yao is a curious soul who wanders the world, often by herself, and writes down her lessons in melodic form in hopes that someone can relate.
I fucking love that. You see, she's coming out with the poetry and the words already. We haven't even gotten started. I love that so much. And I definitely want to dive deep into the whole music journey and how you got started with that. But I always have every guest that comes on the show to talk about what life was like for you growing up. So let's go back to baby Tina, childhood and teenage years. Tell my audience, what was life like for you growing up? And were there any big, impactful moments during that time period that really shaped you into the woman that you have become today?
Oh, this is such a deep question. I love it when people ask me questions like this because to understand who I am today, I really love talking about my childhood because obviously we are where we are today because of the things that happened to us in the past. So I was born and raised in Yonkers, New York. I'm still out here. When I was growing up, it was a really segregated city. So parts of Yonkers would have people of color, parts of Yonkers, it would just be Irish, Italian. It's a little more integrated, but we're still in our own pockets. So I went to public school from first grade and on. I was surrounded by people of color. So I'm grateful that I was surrounded by people of color as well, but I was always the only one in the room who looked like me. I was always the only Filipino in the room. So that was a very unique situation. Luckily, my experience was good because although I looked like the only one in the room, I always felt welcomed. I felt alone sometimes, but I felt welcomed. Whereas other Filipinos who say they went to school in the Midwest with a different demographic would not feel so welcome. So fortunately, I was welcomed. Anytime that I would bring foreign foods to the lunch school table, there was more of intrigue as opposed to, ew, what's that? That looks nasty. People wanted to try my food. And I think that was beautiful. It's a small part of my childhood, but that's pretty much just been the theme, period. I'm usually the only one in the room. I'm the only child. I'm the only this. I'm the only that. But I'm strong enough to wear that hat, I feel.
Absolutely. And what about the relationship with your parents? If you're comfortable with talking about that, how was that for you growing up?
Oh, amazing. As an adult, I can definitely look back and say, damn, you guys sacrificed so much for me to live my life right now. Very healthy. I'm very privileged to have both of them in my life. I don't have any like juicy things to say about my parents. Fortunately, they've been around, they are around, and I try not to take that for granted.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I just love always going back to that time period for every guest because every story is unique. Every childhood upbringing, adolescence is definitely different. And just to hear it from each guest, different perspective, I really appreciate that. And I agree too. I feel like a lot of the things that happened to us during that time of our lives, it definitely shaped us into who we are today. I wholeheartedly agree with that 100%. But now let's jump into the woman that you are today. And I know you're a singer and a songwriter. And I would love for you to talk about that journey and what that looked like for you. Was that always the plan for you? Is that what you wanted to always do as a career growing up? So let us know how that was.
Okay, so I'm a child of immigrant parents. So what they strive for is security, the safe route, because they sacrifice so much. So growing up, karaoke is very big in Filipino culture. So singing at parties, I always did that. Sometimes they would throw money at me to sing, to dance, things like that. They never took it seriously as a profession. They always urged me to go to school, to finish school, which I respect and I understand a little bit better now compared to before. But it was never a push from my family to pursue it as a career. I would say the people in Yonkers, like the people who I went to high school with, the people who I met in my college years, that really pushed me to say, hey, you should step in a studio and record something. Always loved music, never really said, oh, I'm going to be a singer until people see things in you that you don't see in yourself. So I'm thankful for those people who saw that in me.
Yeah, absolutely. And who were some artists that you looked up to growing up that really influenced your genre of music?
Alicia Keys is my goddess.
Do you play piano?
I do, yeah. I'm a little rusty. I did take lessons as a kid. I'm more of a reader than I play by ear, but Alicia Keys just brought something very different. I'm sure you understand her value to the game. She brought something very different. A woman who plays piano, who's bold and beautiful and from New York. Oh, I just wanted to be her as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have my daughter in piano lessons now. She's been really into that for the past couple of years. And I'm like, it's such a beautiful talent to have. I wish my parents would have put me in that. Like, I played the flute for a little bit and I played the violin, but I never took it seriously. And I was in chorus too. I think I sound like Beyonce, but when I hear myself back, I'm like, ooh, girl, you a little off, bitch. But I really want my daughter to definitely tap into her creativity side and playing the piano. I think that's one of the most beautiful instruments, just the talent to be able to just move your fingers in a way to really tell a story with your music. So yeah, shout out to Alicia Keys. I mean, she's one of the greatest out there. And anyone who thinks otherwise, you're just a fucking hater, okay?
Oh, by the way, your daughter is really going to appreciate you for allowing her to play with her creativity. So, shout out to mommy.
Yes, I try to do the things that I didn't have in my childhood growing up, breaking that cycle of generational trauma that I talk about a lot on my podcast, but trying to just shift the narrative for the next generation to come. I think that's super important. So, shout out to the moms out there. So, I want to know, you working in the music industry, what have been some challenges that come along with that? I know it's definitely like a heavily male dominated industry, especially for a woman and a woman of color, trying to create your own seat at a huge table. So, talk about that journey a little bit and what are some challenges that you've experienced?
Well, you already said woman of color. Like, I can elaborate, but number one, a woman. Number two, woman of color. You're a double minority. So you already have two things going against you. A lot of male producers, a lot of male managers, a lot of male this, male that, male that. And sometimes you can run into a power struggle. Sometimes they can try to say, I can give you this, but you got to do this for me. Fortunately, I've never been in too bad of a situation when it comes to a man trying to flex his power on me. But the woman of color part, I think that people who look like me, specifically Filipinos, we're newer to the game, specifically R&B. The talent has always been there. I feel like I do have to work a little bit harder. I do feel like not everyone's going to get me because I don't look like them, which is fine. So I think developing a bigger base has been more difficult for me, but I don't really care for numbers. I care for impact.
Absolutely. Ooh, I love that you said that. And just talking about that, it doesn't just affect the music industry, right? You think about it, people working in corporate America, and they're around people in higher positions who, unfortunately, some of them like to take advantage of that and having to navigate through those instances. I feel like it can affect anyone in any aspect of your life. And especially being a woman of color and being someone that is not quote unquote the norm that you see every day. I'm curious to know, how do you navigate that pushback that comes for you stepping into a space like the R&B world, which is typically very heavily influenced by African American singers and songwriters and all of that. How do you handle some of the pushback or some of the who the fuck is this bitch? How do you navigate through that, and what would be some advice for someone who wants to step into that world but is afraid of that pushback that definitely comes with the territory?
Well, before I push back, I always try my best to give homage, right? Because this genre was not created by people who look like me. So I have to acknowledge that. I have to just do a history. It doesn't have to be a whole lecture of a history, but go back and see who the greats are and understand why you like the genre, understand why you like a specific artist. So homage, number one, is important, especially when you weren't the creator of the genre. People can sense if you're genuine. People can sense, for example, some artists, they're hopping on this Afro beats wave. And some people can tell, is it genuine or is it not, right? So I genuinely love R&B. I grew up listening to it. You probably know the station 106.7 Light FM. They played everything, and R&B was on that station. Earth, Wind and Fire, Anita Baker. I listened to all of that. So number one, pay homage. I guess my pushback is just I'm here, I'm coming from a place of love. I love the genre. I know the history. I'm just genuine. This is my way of healing, my way of hoping that someone out there relates. I don't have any bad intentions in the industry. Everything is just coming from a pure place. So that's my way of pushing back in music and pushing back, period. I'm always going to be my authentic self. I'm going to try to be as gentle as possible. And then if the rough part needs to come out, then it will. But I never want to bring that out, but it's there.
If it needs to be handled, it'll be handled. But
Right. It's just not my preference, but let's not test it.
what's that meme that's going around on TikTok? The guy pointing at the board. The more you fuck around, the more you're gonna find out. So don't fuck around and you won't find out, okay? No, I love that. And I really love the messaging behind you just being very vulnerable and authentic and yourself. For me, the same way with this podcast and this brand and this platform that I'm building, it all has been built on me being so fucking vulnerable and authentic and real and talking about my real life experiences, like being a domestic violence survivor, like talking about the night that I almost died. Me showing probably the darkest and most painful part of myself has grown into this space that I'm attracting like minded people like you who are also doing the same thing and also understand the vision behind it and also want to be a part of it too and sharing their own experiences and their own life stories. And I think there's such a power for people to just be yourself. In this society, especially in my daughter's generation, she's going to be 14 this year. Everyone just wants to be the same, just wants to be popular and liked. And, oh, I need to get the views and the comments, and I need a letter in my follower count and all this unnecessary bullshit that doesn't matter. Where's the genuine people? Where's the vulnerability? Where's the real life experiences? Yo, I can understand what she's singing about, or I can understand what she's talking about in this podcast episode. I think it's so beautiful to come across people like you and I and others like Amber too. She's just a whole nother level. Just finding those type of people and just owning who you are, I think it's so fucking powerful. And we need more of that today.
I want to add, your podcast is the most vulnerable podcast that I have ever subscribed to. That's not a bad thing. That is a great thing because vulnerability is so rare. Listening to music podcasts is cool. Listening to news podcasts is cool. Comedy is cool. It's all necessary, but people are so scared to be vulnerable. So I think what you're doing, I think you're so brave and so strong. And I just want you to keep going because I know that you're touching hearts. Even if it's 5 hearts, those 5 hearts needed it. So please don't stop.
I won't. We're going to talk about it later. There's some sad girl days that we all experience, and there are moments that I'm like, fuck, is anyone even listening? Is this really worth it? Am I just wasting my time? That inner critic is always there trying to shut you down. But when I get feedback like what you said and get messages and comments and reviews and DMs on people just being like, I can relate so much to so and so's story and just thank you for sharing that, it makes me remember my why, like why I even started it. It's not about getting the views up or the subscribers or, yeah, all of that is great. And I'm not taking that for granted, but the storytelling and just the realness of people not feeling like they're alone in whatever situations they've gone through, that is so fucking important to me. So y'all gonna be stuck with me for a while, okay? I don't know. That's a perfect segue into the next part of our conversation. I want to talk about your music projects. I listened to some of them. I haven't listened to all of it yet, but I want to go back to your whole songwriting journey and how that is. And I definitely want to highlight your debut project called Shade, which stands for She Had a Demon Enter. I haven't listened to that yet, but I'm definitely going to. But the title alone, when I saw that, I was like, yo, that perfectly explains my last relationship, the one that turned physically violent. In those 10 months when I was with that man, I felt like the devil entered my life. And I know a lot of people can definitely relate to the messaging that you talk about in all of your music. So just talk about that songwriting process and how it's helped you on your own healing journey.
So travel usually takes me away from a redundant life, and I get a lot of my inspiration when I just leave my routine and I just see something new. I don't even have to travel far. I could just take a walk somewhere I've never been before. So that itself, I need that. I need to be around creative people. I need to see new things. I need to learn new things. And usually I'll catch a concept like that. Either that or someone really got to hurt me. I think I make good hurt music. Making happy music for me is a little more of a challenge, but that hurt music is just a natural response, vomiting it out of your system through words. So when I'm in the studio, I really care for a 360 relationship with a producer. I need him to know who I am. I want to know who he is or she is. And once we get to know each other, then we could start to work because it's music that's coming from not just my heart, but your heart too. So sometimes we can catch concepts in conversation, but all of my music came from a real place. I never just said, oh, I want to write about bracelets, so I'm going to write about bracelets today. It's like, oh, I'm writing about a bracelet because I bought this at a market in a place that I loved. I like to write from scratch. I usually don't like production sent to me. I like to be there while production is starting. I like to bake from scratch. It's all real. It's never, I just pulled something out of my ass. I just wanted to write about this. It happened. Everything that I wrote happened.
So talk about Shade and what happened. How did that inspiration come from? You don't have to name names or anything, but who inspired that and what situation inspired that?
Okay, so there's a song called Old Time's Sake. An old thing inspired that. I'm basically saying, I'm tempting him. You know you want to. I know you want to. I don't know. I was feeling sexy and I was feeling a little powerful. This specific person, he's one of those relationships where they broke you. It was a significant relationship. It was one of those relationships where I figured out moving forward, like what I will never tolerate again and what I like. So yeah, Old Time's Sake. I kind of cringe thinking about it. It's an old song, 2016, what, 7 years old? So that was Old Time's Sake from Shade, my first ever project.
I love that. And I know you have a new project out now, Ginger Tea. I listened to some of them. First of all, you give me Aaliyah vibes.
Oh my God, what a compliment.
Yes, your voice is so angelic and it's just feel good vibes, but also very relatable in what you sing about. So, talk about how that project came to be.
If you scroll through my Instagram, you'll probably see that I try to travel to the Philippines a lot. I've traveled many times there as a kid, but I went a few times with adult eyes, and you get to see some real shit when you travel with your adult eyes. And lately, I've just been in a place of the strong desire of reconnecting to my roots, learning everything, learning the history that my parents didn't learn in school. Because what they say is the loser never writes the history books. So I wanted to learn the history that's not in the textbooks. This project is, there's a little bit of something for everyone, but half of it was dedicated to just my journey of all the emotions that I feel of having family across the world or in different parts of the world, being proud of the color of my skin. I just wanted to pay homage to that Filipino experience because I feel like there's not a lot of music out there that speaks on the vulnerable parts of just reconnecting with your culture.
I love that so much. I think that's very powerful. And, especially for your culture, and like I said before, not being the norm that we see all the time, just for you to be able to shine a spotlight on it, I think that's so beautiful. So definitely check that out. I'm going to leave all of her info in the show notes so y'all can listen to it and follow and subscribe, because I'm telling you, her talent is next level, and I know you're definitely going to some major places. So while we're still on the music topic, I want to know, and I want you to get real vulnerable with me, okay? Think about a song that was your most vulnerable piece, and where did that inspiration come from? What was your meaning behind experiencing that?
Dark off of my latest project, Ginger Tea. In the song, a lot of people think that it's me being afraid of being alone. I'm never afraid of being alone. I just told you, right? I spent most of my life alone. I'm not afraid of being alone. I'm afraid of being left in the dark. So, being left in the dark is not knowing what's going on. This song is the fear of being ghosted. I'm clocking the little movements that are making me feel insecure, and I'm not insecure. In the first verse, I'm saying, I get so scared when you roll over, it gets colder. When you keep rolling over, doesn't mean that it's over. So it's like these little body movements. I'm just like watching the person who I wrote this song about. I'm watching the little things that you do because they're very meaningful. You keep rolling over in the bed. Does that mean that you're distancing yourself from me? I think it's strong to be okay to be alone, but I get really weak when people don't give me the communication of saying, I don't want to be here. If you don't want to be here, that's okay. But me wondering and trying to figure out, I'm not okay with that. Like, I deserve communication. Everyone deserves the respect of knowing, are you happy or not?
Yeah, like where you stand. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, because that's so relatable, especially for us women. We're definitely in tuned way more with our emotional side than men, I would argue. But I think it's beautiful that you're able to express your vulnerability in a way that can make someone else be like, yo, I feel that way too. And I don't feel crazy. I say this all the time on my podcast. It's so powerful for us to use our voice to take our power back and to also let people know I'm going through it too. I love that so much. So thank you for sharing that. Keep doing that. Keep being vulnerable. To me, same thing to you. You're helping a lot of people with your passion and your art. So please continue doing it. So, what would be a piece of advice you would say to a listener who's listening right now who wants to pursue a career in music, but they're hesitant, they're scared? What would you say to give them the power in order to follow their dreams and go into the scary world of working in the music industry?
You will have so much regret later on in life, looking back, thinking, what if I would have tried? That's one thing. I will never allow my mind to go crazy later on in life, knowing, oh my God, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't try, I didn't give it my all. Even in relationships, I would make sure I gave it my all because I need to have peace when I leave that I really tried and there's really nothing left that I could have done to fix anything. So do it because your mind will go so crazy when you're 65 years old and you say, I didn't even do that one thing that I really wanted to do.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think one of the scariest things for me would be to live a life full of regret. and just having that thought, what if I didn't start this podcast? But it was always a thought in the back of my mind, just eating at me and eating at me. And I talk about that a lot too. If there's something sitting in your spirit, in your soul, it's something that you want to do, whether it's starting a business or becoming a singer or starting a podcast or whatever it is that you want to do, and you've been sitting on that idea for a minute and you still haven't actually taken the steps to do it, it's there for a reason. It's sitting in your spirit for a reason. So don't ignore it, because you'll reach 65 one day and be like, fuck, I wish I could have, I should have. I don't want to live that kind of life. I want to do it. I want to do it scared. I might fail. I might fall. I might fuck up, but at least I gave it my all and I tried in any aspect of life.
Right. Wouldn't we rather say, oh, I remember that time I fell, as opposed to, would I have fell or would I have flew?
Absolutely. I'm done running. I'm done hiding. I'm done staying small. I'm fucking creating a seat at my own table, and I'm going to bring people along with me. So let's have that energy. Okay? Let's have that energy in 2023 and beyond. All right. So I want to know more about you. Let's talk about, what have you learned about yourself in the past year? I know that we're only in January of 2023. So let's think about the year of 2022 and all the life experiences that you've gone through. What did you learn about Tina last year?
All right, this is where I might get emotional. So all this time that you and I have been talking, I've been keeping this screenshot on my phone open because I didn't want to lose it. I didn't want to waste time searching for it. So I saw a tweet and I had to screenshot it. It was one of those. And it says, plants have taught me the error of overgiving. You will not be rewarded ever when you overgive to plants. That's not my quote, so I have to put that disclaimer out. The reason why it resonated with me is because there's a person who's in my life last year was suffering from depression, and it's still ongoing. I'll refer to this person as doctor. So I don't have to say this person, that person, doctor, right? So in 2022, doctor's depression was getting deeper, it was getting a bit darker. I think as women, we're naturally nurturing. Sometimes we can prioritize the well being of other people before we prioritize the well being of ourselves. I found that I was giving 80 and receiving 20. And it's okay. There are going to be days like that, but days turn into weeks, which turn into months, and ongoing feeling of 80-20. It just doesn't feel good. I did have to take some time to myself. I know that it can hurt a person, especially when they're depressed. It feels like someone's leaving you. So, you know, when you're on a plane and they say when the oxygen mask drops, put it on first before you put it on anyone else. That's real. That applies not only in planes, it's in life. You have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of anyone else. So while caring for this person, I had to catch myself because I was no longer taking care of myself. And I caught myself, thank God it was quick. But I had to just take a step back just for me. Let me get myself together. And doctor's still around and I'm going to be around, but I had to realize it's not my responsibility to get doctor out of their depression. But what is my responsibility is to check in, to support as much as I can, and to ask, how can you feel supported? What are the things that I can do to support you? And another thing that I learned is that it's not only children who need a village, adults need villages too. So all of that was a very good learning lesson for me. Depression and the symptoms of depression, they're not about me. I should not take offense to them. I learned not to feel guilty about having to take a step back because I have to take care of myself before I take care of someone else.
I love that message so much. And it's very cliche, but that saying that people say, like, you cannot pour from an empty cup. It's so true. I want to be overflowing in my own abundance, that when I do pour and I reach that level of emptiness, I still feel whole as a person, if that makes sense. And when it comes to mental health and being there for others, yes, definitely hold space and check in, like you said, let them know I'm here if you're ready for me to be here. but I also can't sacrifice my own life and my own mental health in order to make sure you're okay. And I think it's so difficult, especially if it's family or someone that's been in your life for 10, 20 years, but the relationship is starting to change. Setting those boundaries, people don't talk about how fucking uncomfortable it is, not only for the person on the receiving end, but the person who is initiating that boundary. It's fucking hard. And a lot of us, especially as women, like we tend to be people pleasers. We want to be Wonder Woman and we want to save everyone and make sure everyone's okay. I was definitely like that in my last relationship. He definitely had untreated mental health issues, major depressive disorder, something that I never dealt with before in my life. And I felt that way like, oh, maybe I can save him. Maybe I can fix him. Maybe I can love him more. But I was also losing myself in the process. So I love that messaging, that honoring your boundaries, as painful as it can be, I got to put my mask on first. I have to be selfish enough and love myself enough to make sure that once I'm good, okay, then we can take care of everyone else, whether it's your kids, whether it's your in laws, whoever the fuck it is. At the end of the day, the only person who really has your back 100% is you.
I'm so happy that you asked that question to allow me to share my story, number one. But number two, I am sorry that you went through that, but there is some comfort in knowing that I'm not the only one.
That's why I share my story so openly, because of that exact feeling and thought. Yes, you are not the only one. We are all healing from, dealing from, going through shit. But in order for us to not feel alone in the shit that we're going through, we have to talk about it, uncomfortable as it can be. Thank you for seeing me, and I see you too, my sister. All right, so I want to know two things. Part one, what would you say is your superpower? And then part two, what's something about yourself that still needs some work, that you're still like, ooh, I got to work on this part, Tina?
My superpower is probably discernment.
That is very powerful.
It sounds a little more regular. I would say discernment. I hope I don't sound like I'm bragging when I say this. I think I have a good enough emotional intelligence.
It's not bragging, it's being confident and bigging yourself up, okay?
Yeah, I think I know when to step in or when to just be there. I think I know when to use this and when to use this.
A lot of people don't know how to do both, sis.
No, 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 no. Some people talk to talk. They're not using their ears while they're talking. So I would say maybe those are the first things that I thought of as my superpowers. What I need to work on is honestly, Leanne, I can be a really cold bitch, and it's very easy for me to cut it off. I can set my boundaries really well. So I think I just need to learn how to be a little more forgiving. I don't want to be cold and alone. It's nice for me to have my boundaries, but we do need people. Just because I'm independent or you're independent doesn't mean that eventually later down the line, you're going to need people. So that's definitely something that I need to work on. Stop being so damn cold, Tina.
I agree 100%, especially when it comes to like the whole romantic relationship thing. Right now, I'm not dating. I'm going on 2 years of celibacy, like focused on Leanne right now. But I feel like when I start putting myself back out there in the dating world, I just know, because of the shit that I've gone through and that I'm healing from, my boundary limit is going to be the first red flag that I see, like I'm out. I'm not dealing with the bullshit that I've dealt with for my 20s and my early 30s. I'm just not. I'm setting those boundaries. But I can also feel like maybe it might be a little unhealthy, because I'm going to be coming off, I don't want to say cold, because when I picture cold, it's completely blocked off. I'm not trying to be that type of woman, but I'm also not going to deal with the bullshit that I dealt with before, if that makes sense. So I can totally relate to just not dealing with the bullshit and not being forgiving the way that I used to be. Because the Leanne in 2021 and 2020 and 2019, she forgave way too fucking much, to the point that people took advantage of her and fucking hurt her and abused her and lied to her and cheated on her and all that shit. The Leanne in 2023, we're not doing that. We're absolutely not doing that. So it's a gift and a curse at the same time.
There definitely needs to be a balance. But you know what? 2023 Leanne sounds like she knows her worth.
Come on. It is Sunday, y'all, so we are in church right now.
Right, and we are
Absolutely.
not going to diminish Leanne's worth, okay?
Amen. Yes, I love that. All right, so we talked about a little bit before that there's bad bitch days and there's sad girl days. Oh God, I mean, last week I had a sad girl day. It was just rough with what I dealt with. And all of us have those not so great days. So I want to know, when those moments of challenge come up for you in your life, how do you navigate through them? And also, what would be a piece of advice you would give to a listener who's listening right now, who's suffering through that sad girl day, and how they can move through those feelings that come up?
First of all, life is not linear. If we didn't have our sad girl days, we wouldn't appreciate our bad bitch days. So we do need the up and down. That makes life interesting. That's what life is about. That's where you learn all the lessons, right? Your sad girl days. So that you could be the bad bitch that you are. I personally just need to center myself. Because usually, if I'm having a sad girl day, I'm not centered. I'm probably all over the place. I need to center myself. I need to be alone. I need my quiet time. And I might need a little escape. I might need to work on a puzzle. That's my latest hobby now. You might just need that little hobby, that little escape from what you're going through right now. And we all need at least that one friend to go to who gives actual wisdom. Not the friend who gives you gossip and tea and celebrity gossip and, oh, our neighbor next door. Not that friend. You need that one friend who is going to give you the real, is going to tell you where you went wrong, is going to tell you, hey, you're losing your mind, or no, you're right on track. So, yeah, I center myself, alone time, and then I get it off my chest with a friend who I can trust. And then I allow myself one day, 24 hours to be emotional. You want to be in bed for the rest of the night? You want to be in bed for the whole day? That's fine. But tomorrow, you're not allowed. Tomorrow, you step outside and you do what you're supposed to do. But I'll allow you 24 hours to just be quiet and be in your feelings. But be in your feelings, but not for too long.
I love that so much. That's literally what I did a few days ago when I had my sad girl day. I had this plan. I was going to go to the gym with a friend and work out and all this shit. And then right in the morning, something happened that just triggered all of my trauma that I've been trying to heal from for the past almost 2 years. And instead of doing everything that I had on my list to do, I said, fuck it. I'm going to be sad today. I'm going to cry. I recorded a podcast episode that's coming out soon talking about that experience and what I went through. But the next day, you best believe I was back in the gym, fucking killing it, recording another podcast episode, doing my job, all of this shit. Give yourself that space. Hold that space for yourself, because we need that, especially coming from us. We can be our biggest hater, our biggest critic, our biggest naysayer, all that shit. But allowing yourself to just be in that moment, but not staying in there for too long, that has been super powerful for me, because I used to be that type of girl who would stay in that moment for too long and then fall down that rabbit hole of depression, anxiety, and even thoughts of, I don't want to be here anymore. I've experienced all of that because I stayed in that sad girl moment for too long. But I think what's really important for people to listen to is, don't run away from that feeling, because it's definitely telling you something about yourself that needs work. The trigger that I went through last week, it just showed me I'm not doing as okay as I think I may be doing, but that's okay. And the fact that you're aware of that, that self-awareness, game changer.
Once you have self awareness, you could tackle anything else that's in your way.
Absolutely. Girl, this conversation is so good. I'm so sad that we're getting close to the end, but I'm going to ask you now the 4 questions that I ask every guest as we wind down this conversation. So, number 1, what has been one of the hardest lessons you've learned about yourself as an adult? Take your time.
Oh my
I know
God.
there's a lot of shit that may come up, but just one.
This shit ain't gonna be here forever. Do it all now. As much as you can, do it all now. Spend the time with your loved ones now. You're probably the same as me. You're witnessing your elders getting older. That's a big life lesson to learn. So as soon as you notice it, just act on it. This shit is not forever, so do everything you can. Live it to the most while it's here.
Yeah, like we said before, you don't want to live that life of regret. And let's be honest, people die every day, and you never know when is going to be your last day. I'm not trying to turn this conversation dark, but reality, you don't know how long you're going to be here. So definitely honor the people that are in your life, set those healthy boundaries at the same time, but also just do all the things that you want to do because we're already what? Almost at the end of January? Like, where the fuck is the time going? But yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. All right, second question. So you're on the Watch Us Thrive podcast. So tell me, what is your definition of thriving?
Thriving is the opposite of surviving. Thriving is I have everything that I need, and I'm in a place where I can go after everything that I want.
Come on, drop the mic. Don't really drop it though. I know it's expensive. I love that. I love that so much. Okay, let's go back to baby Tina, whatever age comes up for you. Being the beautiful goddess queen that you are today, what is one piece of advice you would tell her?
Young baby Tina, it's a woman's world too. The reason I say that, you know how when you're in elementary school and you have the option of choosing an instrument to play, I wanted to play the drums. Mom told me that's a boy's instrument. So every time, to this day, whenever I see drummers play, I'm in awe. Something in me still wants to learn how to play it. And it's never too late. Just how you said, it's never too late for you to play the piano if you want to. It's never too late. I do feel robbed as a kid. What do you mean that's a boy's instrument? No instrument is a boy's or a girl's. So sometimes I can't help but think, damn, what if I would have been a badass drummer who's a woman? You know how much of a statement that is?
You still can, sis.
Right. But the day that I'm blessed with children, I'm never going to say that's a boy's instrument. A girl can play that instrument just as well.
If not better.
Right. So it's a woman's world too.
I love that. Oh, I love that so much. I fucking adore you. You're just amazing. All right, final question. And this is a new question that I actually heard on TMZ. Close your eyes and just picture this, okay? In the far future, when you're no longer living on this earth, far, far, far future, someone has to sit down and write about Tina. What do you want them to say about you?
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, we going there, sis.
You always knew what you were getting with her. Doesn't sound very deep, but I feel like I want to be as honest as possible with people about my feelings, about where I stand with people. I never want to come across as unreliable or I'm not a woman of my word. I take my word very seriously. I think that's why usually I'm more quiet than I'm talking because I'm a woman of my word and I can't take my words back. So I think that's what I want to be remembered as, like, oh, I always knew what I was getting with her. I just knew because she was a solid person. That's what I strive to be, just a solid person. That's it.
Never had to question your loyalty. I love that. I love that so much. And I'm sure they're going to say she was an amazing singer and she won all these Grammys and she was out here killing it. But I love that. I love this conversation. I love everything about you. Once again, shout out to Amber for connecting us. Please, please let my audience know. I'm sure they're going to want to know more about you, follow you and your music journey. How can we follow you? What are you working on? Plug it all in for us to follow along to.
So I'm on all social media platforms as Sing Tina Yao, SingTinaYao. I'm still currently in promo mode for my latest project, Ginger Tea, and eventually I'll be in a creative space to work on new music, but right now I'm focused on my baby Ginger Tea.
Absolutely. Listen to it everywhere. It's everywhere, right? Apple, Spotify, all of that. Definitely going to put that in the show notes. Tina, once again, thank you so much for being here. I know that there's just so much more abundance and beautifulness coming your way. So I'm honored to know you, to call you a friend for life, and just to continue watching you grow and blossom.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for making me feel so safe.